So it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. I've only been up for a few minutes. I've thought about this overnight while staring at the ceiling, as mentioned. And I need to try just unplugging everything completely. Um, and I have done that at this point. Everything in this unit is unplugged except for the microwave, the fridge, and the stove. Um, and like completely unplugged. Like turned off and unplugged. So um, I need to try that and see if that makes a difference. The other thing I need to and again, as outrageous as this sounds, it may turn out being the answer. Um, if I'm getting the same result from both headphones, and in both cases it solves itself by draining the charge out of the wire, is there a possibility that I myself am full of static electricity? And if that's the case, do I simply need to wash my hair? That's another option that I'll have to take a look at, which means I'll be taking a shower within the next couple of hours if this doesn't work. It's a little dark in here, but I don't want to turn the lights on yet. It's almost 4. Looks like it's starting to rain a little. Is it the, no, it's a squirrel. Okay. Um, I was able to, well, I tested it in my bedroom first. And I got exactly the same effect as I got last night, pretty much. So, I mean, the next thing before I start blaming it on my hair is to um, take a walk around the room and see, okay, is there a stronger effect here or there or anywhere else? I do still have the microwave on. I can't really turn the fridge off. That's going to be kind of the last thing I try. But what I noticed when I moved in here was that I was still getting somewhat of an effect, but less of an effect. And it kind of made me wonder here. If I'm getting less of an effect here, that would actually suggest to me that I'm probably having. It's probably that it's the heater, and that the reason that's happening is because the heater's overpowering it, and so I'm not getting as much of an effect here because the magnetic field is stronger. So I'm not able to drain the field out of the cord by grounding it. That's what I would think, anyways. Which means that the reason that I'm getting more of an effect over here is because there's less of a field. The way to test that, unfortunately, the only way to test that is to turn the heat off. But I'm not sure. It's one or the other, right? I know that if I drain the cord and I press play, I get if I drain the cord and I press play, then I initially get a higher sound. It's the bass cuts out a little, and then if I let it play for a little bit, then the bass comes in, and then if I drain the charge again, then the bass cuts out a little. But I'm not sure which one is the more accurate signal. It could be that I'm draining the charge, and once I drain it, that's the accurate signal, and then it gets distorted by the magnetic interference. Or it could be that when I drain the charge, I'm distorting the headphones, and I'm waiting for the magnetic signal from the phones to assert themselves, and the correct sound is once the magnets in the phones come on. Like I say, I noticed a difference in the different rooms, which tells me that the electrical box is right behind me here, so it could be that too. I think that if I turn the heat off at least, and I get the same results in all the different rooms with the heat off, then I'll at least know, okay, um, I mean, it's that, right? If I turn the heat off and I'm still getting different results in different rooms, then that would suggest to me that it's probably the electrical box behind me. So um, that's the next thing to do. I'm gonna go have a smoke and then cut it down. I mean, I'm not gonna turn the heat off all the way. It's currently set to 23, which is, I mean, when you set the heater to 23, and it's these kinds of heaters, it's like 19. So if I set it down to 19, it'll come down to like 15 in here probably. Um, it's relatively nice out. I mean, it's not summer, but it's not winter either. So there's if I'm going to do this, it's a decent day to do it. And I mean, I turn it down to 19 or something. That's not really. I mean, the pipes aren't going to freeze or anything, so I think I'll be okay if I do that for a little while. I don't think it'll take too long to figure it out. It probably will take a little while for the field to dissipate. Um, at the same time, it'll take a little while for the heat to come down. So I have a bit of a waiting game here to see whether that's it or not. But I mean, that's I can't believe I'm doing this, but I mean, I can't really come up with any other answer. Like I say, what I'm pretty sure it is, it's that the reason I was getting a more pronounced effect here was because the field is lower here, and the reason I was getting a less noticeable signal is because the field is stronger there. But we'll find out. So the results of that experiment were more or less as expected. Turning the... Oh, I got a low battery. Time to switch it. I'm going to wait until I plug that in because I'm still not... It might actually still be that. Okay, so, but the results of that were as expected. In here, turning off the heater increased the differential so that when I drain the cord, I can hear a bigger difference. That makes sense because the field in here was stronger. By turning it off, it meant I could hear a bigger difference. I mean, turning it off, it weakened the strength of it, which made me hear a bigger difference, but I could still hear it because it wasn't off completely. In here, it made the differential became less in here, and leaning towards the sound of the higher, more defined highs. So it seems to be that what the interference is doing is distorting the bass, and by distorting the bass, it's muting the highs. In here, which is where it's most important, it was the same thing but less. It might have just been less because I had more time for the field on the heater to dissipate. So what that means is I'm going to turn my heater down from, you probably can't see that, maybe if I change my thing, but whatever. I'm going to turn it down from 23 to 21 in here and in here. And I'm going to turn it down from 24 to 23 in here initially. And see how I adapt to that. You got to keep in mind that it was like 26, 27 degrees in here all summer. So even for it to come down to 23 was a big difference. I think I've acclimatized to that largely. On top of that, I'm going to be quitting smoking soon, which means that I'll have lots of blankie time. For the next couple of days, I might just have to get used to wearing a sweater. It's not such a big deal. And on top of that, maybe turning the heat down a little in here will have the effect of him turning the heat up upstairs. I mean, it's this kind of tug-of-war, right? I mean, if he turned the heat up upstairs, I could turn the heat down. But he seems to like it considerably colder than I do, so it didn't seem like that was going to happen. But I I now have a very strong incentive to turn the heat down and keep it down. So hopefully that means he turns it up. From the landlord's perspective, I'm sure he would prefer that because I'm using electric heat and he's using um, natural gas. So it's going to cost him less to heat upstairs than it does to heat downstairs. But um, at the same time, I didn't want to freeze my ass off while I was, you know, waiting for him to turn the heat on, kind of thing. So, but like I say, now I have a strong incentive to keep it down. So, 21 in here on a system like that means it's going to feel a little more like it's 17 or 18. But I mean, it's habitable, anyways. Have to get used to wearing sweaters. I mean, I did grow up in basements that were heated like igloos if heated at all. So I mean, I'm used to it. It's just because I did that, I've grown accustomed to liking the heat when I can. The truth is that in here, so long as I have the computer on, and I have turned the computer on, everything else is off except the computer. If I have the computer on in here, then the temperature will not go below 22, or well, it's at 22 now because it was off, but it's staying steady at 22. In fact, it'll probably go up, just on account of the heat off of the machine. The heat doesn't really, I mean, unless we get like a minus 30 day or something, the heat doesn't really turn on in here. So that's, well, I mean, it was turning on because I had it up at 23. So it won't get cold in here because I've got lots of stuff. In here, the computer, the laptop is fairly significant, but I mean, it will turn on. But I mean, it's been 5 degrees, and I mean the weather's telling me it's going to be 10 degrees for. If this keeps up, we're not going to have winter at all this year. So, you know, I mean, it's not going to be on too much in here either, even with it low. Here I need, I mean, I should actually have 2 heaters in here, but I've only got 1. So, I mean, I do need to have it up in here, but hopefully it's far enough away that it doesn't really make any difference. Maybe I can put some tinfoil on the door here or something. I'm only half joking. Or whatever. I'm going to need to do a little bit of experimenting still, but I think I have determined from this afternoon that it did have something to do with it. So I'm going to leave the lights on in here and leave the computer on. Hopefully it's enough that it prevents the heat from turning on. The heat has now been off for a few hours. I think I probably still need a little bit more time for the feel to completely dissipate. So I'm gonna get something to eat, and then come back to it. I'm gonna do some more testing with the MP3 player, just to see. I'm gonna put one device on after another until I can get to this up as it is. Like I say, everything else is still off. And then after that, I'll slowly have to turn one device on after another. This is going to be a while. It may take me 2 or 3 days actually to get myself back up to here. And it hasn't completely gone away. There is still some effect, but it's much milder. Something else I want to do is I'm going to want to take a walk around the unit here and see what maybe the electrical box is open or there's a wire sitting out or something. I think that's unlikely. As I mentioned, my landlord is an electrician by trade, so I don't think he'd do that. But I can take a walk around anyways. The other thing is the light. Like I said, I've got a whole bunch of testing in here, but at the very least, I have convinced myself that the heaters had something to do with it, and that turning the heat down will have a positive effect on the interference. Whether that's enough remains to be seen, but it seems like it's a positive step anyways. It was 22 degrees when I walked out of there, and it was 22.2 when I walked in, so it's keeping it warm enough that the heat doesn't have to come on anyways. The field seems to have faded enough that it's essentially unnoticed. I mean, if I really pay very close attention, I can hear a little bit on the bass, but it seems to be pretty much gone. So, um, I'm actually moved over to the mixer. I still got everything else off. I want to get it running cleanly through the receiver before I start slowly turning all the other devices into place on. From the furthest away, which will be the computer in there. Like I say, that'll probably take all night. Um, and we'll see where I am in a few hours. So the interference is now actually worse than it's ever been. It pretty much has to be coming at sort of the unit. It sounds like a fucking AM radio, some stupid hipster bullshit. Um, whatever I'm doing, I don't know how you classify it, but it's certainly not fucking hipster bullshit. I'm as anti-hipster bullshit as anybody else you'll ever meet. So, um, well, I mean, it's just the idea of of producing something on a cassette. Like you want to produce something on a cassette, you want your music to sound like garbage. I mean, it's the same thing with vinyl, really. I mean, you really want your music destroyed by all the fucking. You really want to hear a car driving by every time you put a piece of music on. And it's I would like the idea of releasing something that sounds like it's played to like a car stereo speaker or something is enough to make me want to smash things. I don't, if I'm looking for an aesthetic here, it's like mid '70s prog aesthetic or like a mid '80s contemporary pop kind of thing. I have no interest in making things sound bad on purpose, but all I'm getting is fucking shit, and it's really frustrating because I know that I'm able to get good sounding mixes, like professional quality sounding mixes out of this gear, but all I've been getting on this project for months is just shit, and I can't figure out why. Um, at least if it was the same kind of shit, I could conclude that okay, the mix is just shit, but it's like this kind of shit and then that kind of shit. Like for a while, it sounded like a fucking like I was getting like fucking like metal guitars, and then it was like I was getting like grunge, and now it sounds like a fucking AM radio. So like I don't know. When something sounds like an AM radio, that makes sense that there's some kind of interference. This is off still. This is back on, but I mean it's on at a. It's not on as much as it was before, so it can't be worse. That doesn't make sense. Only thing I can only thing I can think of with that is that maybe the fields were canceling each other out, and by turning this one off, I've made it worse. That's a terrible thought. I don't know. I've just turned everything off. I'm gonna wait until after midnight. Because if it is something else in the house, then hopefully it'll go away. That's one way to figure that out. I'm just gonna wait until after midnight. Ultimately, I mean, if I can't get a straight signal on this, I mean, I'm I'm gonna have to move. I mean, if all I'm getting is interference here, um, there's not really another option besides leaving. I can't mix when I'm getting noises from who knows where picked up in the signal. So I don't really want to do that. I like this place, but I mean, if I can't get a clean signal, I have no other choice. It might be a while, but I would have no other option. So I changed my mind. Instead of waiting until after midnight, I decided I'm just going to let it run for hours and see if it can cycle itself back around. I've been listening to it for almost an hour, and it sounds terrible. All the high end has just disappeared. It's as bad as it's ever been. So obviously the things that I thought might make a difference didn't make a difference. Um, uh, I mean, I can fix it by unplugging it and plugging it back in, so it's still some kind of interference or electrical issue, but whatever it is, isn't the things from in the room I thought it was. So I turn the heat back up. There's no use in being cold if that's not what it is. I've got my stuff back on. Um, I'm gonna walk you through. Actually, maybe you can. Anybody who has ever seen this. I've got this issue with the machine and the other. Well, it's the one that's plugged in there, hooked up to the computer. Every once in a while, I turn the computer on and I just get this, and it does not matter what I do. It just gets me in a loop like this. Now the way I've got this computer set up, I mean, then it comes up and says okay, but it doesn't matter. It just goes around, right? So, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it almost looks like a virus. But if it's a virus that's been cycling around over and over again for over a year. Now, it's easy enough to fix. Well, I say easy enough. If I had anything on the computer that was important, it wouldn't be so easy. But I like I don't do anything on this computer. Everything that's of any use to me is on the external drive. So when this happens, I just reinstall, which is a relatively painless process because it's scripted. So might as well go ahead and get that in motion. Actually, I'm gonna need to put my probably need to restart that again because I'm gonna need to put a battery in here to get the boot to come up. It's the one thing that's necessary for. Is it one or two? It's two. That just fall out or yeah, okay. 2 seconds here. I just need to put this back in, stabilize it. I'll need to restart it again. Pop up. Because I mean that'll that stupid message will come back up, and it doesn't matter how many times I restart it, it comes up. But I mean, this one is all I have to do install on the other machine. It's the same basic image, but this one's a lot faster. It's a lot smaller. What invariably happens here is that tell me to press any key to move from ZD. Come on. Where's my button? Why would I not get my... Okay. You there? Yeah, you're in there. Okay. Try it again. It's just, I mean, it's perpetual. Let's see if, yeah, I got my. I don't remember what the right button here is. F10, F8, F9. Delete. Should be telling me to press any button to boot from CD. Really, what should we be doing here? I'm not quite sure why it's not. Come on. Okay, it looks like I'm going to be fighting with this for a while, so I'm going to turn this off. But that's the first thing I got to do here is get this reinstall back on order. And I mean, I'm going to play that. I'm going to let it go. What I'm wondering is if um, this is something that might like come in like a wave type of thing. Um, what I want to hear is I want to listen to it. I want to listen to it come back, kind of thing. When you first turn it on, it sounds pretty good, and then it sounds like shit after a few minutes. I want to hear it go back to the good sounding thing without any interference from me. That's what I'm waiting for here because I mean I've been doing the same thing over and over again. I've been, all of this kind of proactive interfering with it. I just kind of want to listen to it and see what happens on its own, and see if it does come back. If I'm able to get a better sound out of it. If so, how long does it last for? And all these kinds of things. Is it related to anything that's happening around me, etc., etc. I don't. I mean, I've tried everything I can think of trying. I don't think there's anything else I can do. But I mean, at the same time, I know that sometimes when I turn it on, it sounds fine for a long period, or at least better than it does now for a long period. So I don't. I want to hear that happen. I want to hear it come back. I'm going to take kind of a hands-off approach for a little while. Um, in fact, I might take a hands-off approach for several days and just listen to it, kind of thing, and kind of wait to see what happens if I can tie it to changes in the environment. The weather, it's been really foggy here the last couple of days, and it kind of got me wondering. Like I said, I've got the heat back up. Did that change anything, etc.? It's just all I can conclude right now is that everything I've tried has failed, but that at the same time, it really seems obviously to be an issue that's dealing with. See, there's a stupid thing again. It really seems to be obviously some kind of interference that's happening, and whatever it is, doesn't seem to be from the unit. So, what else? I mean, what do you do? You're well, what do I do when I'm pretty sure that I'm getting interference, but it's an interference that I cannot control? Besides, just listen to it and see if I can find a way for it to just kind of go away. And if it does go away, and if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to move the equipment somewhere else. I don't see what else I can do. Okay, well, plugging everything in seems to, well, I'm hesitant on a cause and effect, but the highs seem to have come back. I don't think it's interference from this stuff, because I'm pretty sure that the interference that I was getting, if I was getting any at all, if I wasn't just hearing things, was related to the bass, and it was giving it kind of a crunchier bass. And I don't have the crunchy bass, which actually suggests to me that that's probably just about the cleanest signal I've heard in a while. Is it possible that maybe... see, I'm not convinced that's on the same circuit as that. So I mean, I don't know what plugging that computer in would have to do with that. And I think that the heat is on its own circuit as well. So I'm more inclined to think that the whatever happened there happened on its own. And that would mean that I'm going to expect that it will probably fade back down again. Unless, and I've pointed this out a few times, is that it seems to sound better once it's on for a little while. And it might have something to do with it just warming up. I'm still, like I say, I'm still not really any closer to figuring it out. But I really think that the best thing I can do right now is just sit down and listen for hours Just listen to it cycle in loops for hours and see what happens. Does it stabilize to the sound I want it to be? Does it go back to the yucky flat sound? I pick up an AM radio sound. Um, because it's getting late. I think it's almost 11. Um, any interference from around might have turned itself off. But I still think this is the best thing I can do right now. Is just listen. So it's almost 3 o'clock, and it's the weirdest thing. I've been listening to this over and over again for I don't know. Well, I've been listening to it since about 9:30, so I've listened to it about 5 or 6 times now, and every time it cycles through, it's different. So, I mean, like what? It like how? It's impossible. It's not a situation where I mean, it seems like there's a pattern, um, and I was only getting the kind of the beginning part of the pattern, right? So I turn it on, and it's okay for a few minutes, and then it falls. But then after it falls, it seems to come back up, and then it kind of modulates. I mean, the modulation is lesser, right? So I mean, it's closer to the right part, but it's going up and down and up and down and up and down. Um, and the only I mean, playing around with signals and stuff in here didn't seem to have anything to do with it. If it is a consequence of interference, I have no understanding of what that interference is, and that's kind of the problem here. I don't know how to progress further, except to listen to this over and over again. In fact, this might be all I do for the next week. Is just listen to this and see if I can determine any sort of understanding of what the interference sounds like. Maybe if I can get an understanding of when the interference is strongest in a certain sense. Like I started, like I say, I started tonight a little after 10, which was, I guess, I presume when people mostly went to sleep. Did it decrease at that point because of that? Is that something I'll be able to notice in the future? That the interference decreases uh, sort of predictably later at night and increases predictably early in the day? Um, is it completely random, or do these kinds of patterns develop? Um, the tools I have to use are obviously very unscientific. I'm dealing with the perception that my ears provide me with. But if I'm not able to get any kind of a stabilization, and I can't develop any kind of serious cause and effect with anything around me, the next best thing I can do is try to listen to it and develop a pattern. Um, that said, I'm about to go buy what is going to be, without ambiguity, the last cigarettes that I purchase. Which means that I have a compost run, and I want to make sure I get the compost run done while I have cigarettes. So if I don't feel I'm getting anywhere tonight, I'll probably do the compost run this morning. Um, it's like it's 3. Um, I it's actually a good weather point to do this. So I tend to go early in the morning for the reason that walking around with melting bags of coffee on your back isn't particularly fun. It's a lot more fun when they're frozen. So I tend to try to get to a point where it's -3-ish. Right now, the way the temperature is, I think I'm kind of screwed either way. So I'm gonna want to go in the morning one way or the other. So um, and I mean it's I think that what I'm getting at is I'd like to go with I'd like to wait until the sun comes up so that I can get some shots of me walking. If it's not today, it'll be tomorrow. Um, and that's it for right now. It's 20 to 5, and I have a substantial breakthrough, possibly a final answer. Um, See, I knew it was going to be something like this. Okay. So, if you're concerned that you're getting magnetic or some other kind of interference from the CIA or aliens or whatever else, what you're going to do is you're probably going to hit the floor, right? Because you know that um, this kind of interference is going to be less profound, lower to the ground. So I tried that, and as would be expected, it seemed stable. So I got a long period of good sounding listening and lying on the floor. But that's not really good enough, right? But um, it led me to the conclusion that maybe um, I could start um, taking a look at moving some of the devices around. Um, it wasn't really clear to me. I mean, like I still don't know exactly what the interference is. If it's coming from that device, or if it's the monitor, or it's some interference pattern, or whatever. But I was thinking, if I could maybe move these guys up. I've got some pretty big regression textbooks that I'm not going to be reading anytime soon. Maybe I can just hang them under there, kind of thing. Um, you know, just to get the stuff up, right, and away from the ear levels. But naturally, um, if if the thought crosses your mind that you're going to move things up, then perhaps you may. It would be a lot easier to move yourself up, and thus I believe that the solution to the problem that I've been dealing with for 6 months and been racking my brain over is simply this. Problem solved. Um, I've been listening for a while, and at the higher level like this, it's crystalline. It's better than it sounded in a long time, through any source, in any way. I just out of whatever fluke happened to be sitting at the worst possible place I could be sitting. At this point, it seems like that might be the case. I will say that I have done most of my mixing in this room with the chair up. I would have taken it down in order to deal with the guitar effects specifically. And you know what? That's when I first started noticing that things were sounding funny. I thought it was the sound card out of the um, Line 6 device. I just figured that the pod didn't sound as good. Um, but I would have taken it down because it's a little bit too far up to be able to see uh, the display. So I would have taken it down just so that I'm a little bit closer to the display. Um, I also use this chair for drumming, and I like to keep it up usually for drumming. Last time I did some drumming was about a year ago. Um, so, although, when did Tame Impala release their last record? Sometime in the spring? Yeah. I may have taken this down at that point because I wanted to do a remix of, was it Let It Happen? Is that the, I think so. Um, of course, the last Tame Impala record was not well received by a lot of people, including myself. Um, I found the issue with the first track was, I mean, it wasn't a bad track. It's just the drumming was terrible. Um, and I found that through most of the record, it's just, I mean, it wasn't, it's really not that different than what you would expect from Tame Impala, except for some reason where he's moved from what was, interesting rock drumming to very boring disco drumming. Why anybody would do that, I mean, if you want your stuff played at a club, you'd think you'd be better off with, good drumming. I, I admit I don't spend much time in clubs, but I mean, to take exactly the same thing and just put boring drumming and therefore it's club music, I think that's as insulting to club goers as it is to their previous fan base. But anyways, I thought I could fix it just by drumming over it. I never, I mean, I did a couple of takes and I didn't do any more. I kind of moved on because I wanted to finish what I was doing. But I think that the chair has been mostly down since then. Um, this might not be I mean, it might, something else might have resulted in this. Um, or maybe I put the chair back up and I put it back down and I don't remember doing it. It's not exactly the type of thing you would take notice of. But at this moment, right now, I am convinced that all I ever had to do to fix this problem that has been bothering me since the beginning of July, and of which it is now the 8th of December, the day after Pearl Harbor Day, is simply to lift my chair up. Um, it's a workaround. It's masking other clear issues here. But I think that that's really all I had to do. And I look forward to um, proving myself correct on this point. And will be a little bit um, deflated if it doesn't work out.